Okay, let's take a look at that KD ratio. We are at 2.001. Yes, we have broken the 2.0 threshold. The world rejoices. This is like Chuck Yeager breaking the sound barrier into Bell X1. This is like Alan Shepard being the first American in space. This is like Neil Armstrong landing on the moon. The world wonders, and the world wonders how. And the how is very simple. When you have a great squad, when there are those of you who watch my videos who like to play with me in Battlefield, and when you have a squad and they work together, great things happen, and that helps a lot. The second thing is I do pretty well in tanks and IFVs, and when I can jump into one of those and get 60, 70, 80 kills with only 5, 6, 7 deaths, it does great things to your KD ratio. So to those who I play with, I thank you. We did great things, and to the tanks that I've left smoldering at the side of the road, thank you. You will be missed. For anybody who missed my last video, I do have merch. Yes, merch. One of the comments after I did the video on how to make money, one of you suggested that I make a coffee mug that says, let's take a look at that KD ratio. So, as I described in that video, I think the last video, I grabbed an AI image. I did see the post, the comment concerned about copyrights. I used an AI generated picture of a soldier. I used GIMP and used the same font as my logo, the Raging Sea Bear, and I said, let's take a look at that KD ratio, and we put up a store in about 2 hours. Now, those of you who tried to order right away, yeah, I screwed up. I forgot. I was in such a rush. I forgot to turn on the financing, the payment system, so they were unable to buy the merch. But since that time, I've actually added a few other things. I've actually added a spiral notebook. I've added stickers. I added 2 different types of poster. One is like vinyl, and one is paper. So, pick what you want. I've added some glassware. I added a sweatshirt. So yeah, there it is. And just to help you guys out, especially since I screwed up and forgot to turn on the payment system, there is a coupon code, Adrian15, ADRIAN 15. You get 15% off your first order, and it's valid through February 23rd, 2026. So you have no excuse. Go buy my stuff. So this one, this is the comment section, video of the week. And I have 2 that I want to touch on. And so I'm going to pause the video right here, and we're going to touch on the first one. The first one was from a guy wanting to know more about the mobile home deal and where to find trailers. He says, where are you searching? Maybe I misunderstood. Best deal I've seen in my area was beat the shit for about $5 to $6 grand. Okay. So the last time I did mobile homes was about a decade ago. It was about 2015, 2014. And keep in mind, if you're looking in newspapers, well, maybe not newspapers. If you're looking online, right? If you're looking online, it's somebody in real estate he's already trying to get his pound of flesh. Bad term. He's already working the deal. So what you need to do is you need to get out there, right? You can look on Craigslist, but keep in mind that a lot of these people that are in these mobile homes are not very sophisticated. They might be able to work at Craigslist, but they're not going to work, necessarily in eBay, or they're not going to, go on, Realtor.com or whatever, right? These guys, they're very simple, blue-collared people. So what I did is I found where the mobile home parks were, right? Google it. Where are the mobile home parks near me? Go drive through them. When you drive through these mobile home parks, the people that are selling will put a for sale sign in the window. And you go knock on it, and you look in the mobile home, and you try to work a deal. One One deal I was just that. I drove through. I found a 2-bedroom, 1-bath unit. It was a small unit that a couple had moved out of because they had had a child and they needed more space. So they moved into another trailer in the same park, and they were stuck paying 2 lot rents. So I ended up getting that 2-bedroom, 1-bath for $1,500 because they needed to unload it because it was hurting them, right? They were stuck paying 2 lot rents. Lot rent is the rent you pay the landowner to park your trailer on it. And another one was this is actually an interesting story. When I was doing this, I was in corporate America, and one of my customers wanted to get into mobile homes, and he kept pressuring me. Hey, come on! I found this mobile home. Let's go look at it. So we went to look at it, and part of the comment is about these things are pieces of shit. So we went to look at this mobile home. The people selling it wanted $2,000. And we walked around it. There was a wasp nest in the compartment with the hot water heater. When we walked through it, the carpet looked like it hadn't seen a vacuum cleaner in like the past decade. The floor around in the bathroom was squishy because in these old mobile homes the floors were made of particle wood, and when it got wet it would get squishy, get soft. The windows were broken out, and they had had plywood screwed in over the windows. And I should be running my game here while I'm talking. And so we walked through this thing, and they wanted $2,000, and we walked out, and my customer was like, "What a piece of shit, man! I can't believe I wasted your time." And I'm looking at him like, "Are you kidding me? That's a gold mine." He's looking at me like I'm crazy. He's like, "It would cost a fortune to fix up." I said, "No, it would." I said, "Man, this is a $2,000 mobile home, right? You're not going to go buy Anderson windows and put it in a $2,000 mobile home." I said, "First off, you sell it as a handyman special. A handyman special is you sell it for a little bit less, right? Instead of $200. Again, these numbers are a decade old. I haven't run the new numbers. So at the time, I was doing between $175 and $250 a month. So you don't sell it for $250 a month. You sell it for $175, maybe for 30 months, 36 months. Sell it as a handyman special, fix up, right? There's going to be someone out there who would take $50 off or $75 off their monthly bills and put a little elbow grease into fixing a mobile home. Sell it as a handyman special. You don't have to fix it up. But if you want to fix it up, first off, again, this is a cheap mobile home, right? You don't put Anderson windows in it. You go down Days Hardware and you get some cut glass to the right size, and you take the plywood off and you glue the glass in with silicone, okay, and make sure it doesn't leak. You get a saw and you cut out a 4 by 8 foot section of the squishy floor, and you drop in a piece of plywood and you nail it down. You go to a second-hand carpet distributor that sells scraps or whatever, and you buy some indoor-outdoor carpeting, and you just lay it down and staple it down. This is not a $500,000 mansion we're talking about here. We're talking about a $5,000 home that you just want to make cozy, right? You want to so it doesn't leak. That's if you want to fix it up. So don't be spending a lot of money fixing up a mobile home. On that one, I suggested we replace the windows because it was really dark and kind of scary, and slap some paint on the walls because they were with spray paint painting graffiti on the walls, and fix the floor so they're not going to get hurt. I mean, bare minimum. Then the funny thing on this deal was that we went and talked to the park manager, right? The guy who's managing the mobile home park for the owner. And it turns out that this trailer was about to be not repossessed, but impounded. They were going to kick them out. They were going to evict the tenants because they weren't paying. They were $3,000 short. They were $3,000 behind in their lot rent. So, I talked to the park manager. I said, "Look, I'll give you $1,500 for to pay the back lot rent, and I'll take possession of the trailer." He says, okay, because right, he was looking at nothing, right? He was going to, evict these people. They don't have the money to move the trailer, so this guy was going to have to deal with the trailer. I said, look, we'll give you $1,500. We'll give you 50 cents on the dollar. We'll pay, the 50 cents on the dollar for the lot rent, $1,500, because he was looking at zero, so he's making money. I said, we'll take care of that. We'll evict them, and we'll get a paying customer in there. He said, done, right? He was all over that because he was looking at zero. Now he's looking at least, half. So then we went back to these guys that lived in the trailer, and we said, look, here's the situation. We know you're about to be evicted. You're about to get nothing for this trailer. So we'll tell you what we'll do. We'll give you $500 for the trailer, and we'll give you till the weekend to get moved out, and we'll pay your lot rent, right? Because they were hoping for $2,000, but they were already in trouble. So we got this trailer for $2,000, right? He actually put the effort in, cleaned it up a little bit, changed the glass like I told him, fixed the floor. He worked for a company where he could get a nice price on carpeting. He put some indoor-outdoor carpeting, and he flipped it, and he got $250 a month for it for 36 months. So don't. If you're looking for deals, you're not going to find them in the paper. You're not going to find them, in Craigslist. You might find them on Craigslist, but I doubt it. But go out there, put on some steel-toed shoes, because sometimes you step on some interesting flooring. Put on some good work boots, and go walk through these places and make a deal. I mean, that's how it's done, right? You make a deal. Let's see, the next question, and by the way, I'm telling you right now, there's a rant coming. So hide the kids and hide the wives. If you guys are wearing silk panties and it's going to get bunched up and make you butt hurt over, some of the words I'm about to use, I will put the link down below, in the comment section where you can click to skip. Or just turn the volume down until you see the gameplay starting again. This guy, Real Red Bull, prey on low-income people. Got it. Sounds about right. Okay, Real Red Bull, you're a fucking retard. It's pretty obvious you have no fucking clue what you're talking about. It's pretty fucking obvious that you don't know what the hell how the world works. You probably live in your mom's basement, sucking on a Twinkie, and believing that Madabi is going to solve New York's problems with socialism. You have a soup sandwich for a brain. Until you actually start putting your own money into the world to try to make it better, shut the fuck up, because you're an idiot. Okay, rant's over, but I will address some of his, by the way, from now on he's going to be called Fucktard. If I refer back to him, he won't be Real Red Bull, he is Fucktard from here on out. And with that said, we'll start the gameplay back up. Now, it's pretty obvious that this guy, the fucktard, is he's probably a socialist, right? He thinks that that everybody should live like Elon Musk or the Trump or whatever. Probably thinks socialism is the cure to the world's ills, even though it has never worked anywhere it has ever been tried. And by the way, Khrushchev had said that the only difference between socialism and communism is that communism is socialism in a hurry. So anybody who claims to be a socialist is really a communist, right? It's just how fast they want to implement it, okay? And that includes Democrat socialists like Madabi up in New York. So let's talk about that real quick. Capitalism. Capitalism has raised more people out of poverty, and this is historically accurate. Go look it up. Don't sit there and demand I prove it. Go look it up. I'm telling you the truth. Capitalism has raised more people out of poverty than any other economic system in the history of man, okay, ever. So here's proof. You yourself live better than kings of old, right? You have indoor plumbing. Kings didn't have indoor plumbing. You eat food that's actually fresh, Kings were lucky if they got fresh food. You live better than the kings of old. So, and that's because of capitalism. Now, capitalism is where you, if you have an idea or you have, ambition and want to put in the work, you can get ahead in life. You can become a millionaire. Look at Bill Gates, right? He dropped out of college. He was a smart man, but he still dropped out of college because he had an idea for Microsoft. You have what's that guy that did Facebook? Looks like a space alien. But that guy, right? Look, if you want to put it in, and the kids that made Google, if you have an idea and want to put in the legwork and the effort, you can become a millionaire. And from there you can employ people, hire people, and help raise them out of poverty and help give them a better life. Capitalism, if you have an idea, you can excel, and not on the backs of others either. I'm talking, when you excel, and you're employing people, you're giving them money, you're putting, it's a good thing. Socialism is a drag on society. Okay, that's why it's failed everywhere it has ever been attempted. Everybody thinks, well, they just didn't implement it right. Really? Let's see, China, Russia, USSR, the entire Eastern Bloc nations, Cuba, Venezuela, where they're eating zoo animals. Oh yeah, yeah, it's a great idea. So I'm gonna give an example, and I think this is an excellent example on how socialism works. So imagine that there's a high school or college classroom, and the teacher says, you know what, we're gonna do socialism in this classroom. Everybody gets the same grade. Doesn't matter what you get on everybody gets the same grade. And no matter how hard you work or how little you work, everybody gets the same grade. And let's say it's a hard class like physics. So he gives this first test, and you have the students that naturally study hard because they want A's. They're trying to get ahead in life, and so they work hard and they get 90s and 100% on their tests. Then you get the slackers that don't do shit, and they get D's and F's on their test. But because it's a socialist program or classroom, everybody gets a B, right? It averaged out to a B. Everybody got a B. Now the A students, the guys that get 90s and 100s on their tests, were upset because they're like, hey, I studied hard. I sacrificed my time, my fun time, when I was at home to study, right? I wasn't playing video games. I wasn't out, partying. I wasn't out chasing tail, whatever. I was studying. It's not fair. And everybody in the classroom, which was the majority, were, oh, boo-hoo, boo-hoo, you poor kid, suck it up, right? So the next test comes around, and a few less of the A students studied quite so hard. And so the next test came in, and the average was a C. Now the B students are now outraged, saying, hey, I studied, I deserve, right? I deserve my B. And again, the teacher's like, hey, it's a socialist program. Everybody gets the same grade. So the C's and D's and F students are all ecstatic because they got a C, and the A's and B students are getting ripped. Feel like they're getting ripped off. So the next test rolls around, and so a few less students decide to study because what's the point? Why should I keep studying? I'm not benefiting from I'd rather go out party. I'd rather play more video games and not study as hard. I'll just get a C like everybody else. And so then the next test rolls around. Now everybody's getting D's, and as you can see over time, the producers, the A and B students, will stop producing because they will see no benefit in them to continue to sacrifice when they're not getting ahead themselves. When they are not reaping the benefits, at some point they will stop. And this is the exact point of Margaret Thatcher. Now, Margaret Thatcher was one of the greatest women of all time, right? Prime Minister of England. She said that socialism was doomed to fail when you run out of other people's money. And that's exactly right. Mondavi in New York is about to learn this lesson. And a lot of people in New York that voted for him are about to learn this lesson. It may not be, in the next 6 months. It might not be in a year. But at some point, they're going to run out of money. They're going to run out of the work ethic, and they're going to run out of the the producers are going to stop trying because they're not getting ahead and they're not benefiting from their hard work and hard labor. So, fucktard, put down the Twinkie, go outside. If you are so wanting to help the poor, get a job and give your money to these low-income people and raise them up, and see how far that takes you in life. Okay? Now, the other thing on this very topic, look, if you're being the bank, if you are being the hard money lender for these people in the mobile homes, it's not the average cost of the house is what, $320,000 today. So you need 20% down, $64,000. These people don't have $64,000, right? They just don't. So trying to get into a house is very, very difficult. And not only that, once you get into a house, the utilities are much more. You have to have homeowners insurance, right? Because if the house burns down, the bank still wants its money. But in mobile homes, there is no such thing. If you own a mobile home or you live in a mobile home, you don't have to have renter's insurance. You don't have to have homeowners insurance. So if I'm lending someone money to buy a mobile home and they burn that to the ground, I am out. Not only am I out 100% for the cost of what I invested so far, but the property owner is going to want me or the investor to remove the wreckage. So there is risk. And not only that, these people have nothing. I mean, nothing. I had the true story, swear to God. There was this couple that, came and looked at one of my trailers when I was doing this. And they were living in one of those weekly hotels where you pay by the week. They were spending like $250 a week. They're spending $1,000 a month to live in a hotel. And they came to me and said, we decided it was time to move out because last night they pulled a dead hooker out of the room next to us. I'm like, what? So, yeah. So a dead hooker in the hotel room next to them. They decided that was the catalyst that was going to push them to move out. So they came in and looked at the trailer. And by the way, guys, don't bunch up behind the other tank. I mean, look at what just happened. And so they literally had nothing, right? So I said, look, I can't sell it to you without the $500 down payment. And they said, well, we can handle that because that's 2 weeks at the hotel. They had the $500. And look at this asshole, he's running in front of me. And I said, okay. I said, give me the $500. And I said, I'll tell you what. I'm going to defer your first payment for 60 days. Take the next 2 months. Take the money that you normally pay in your hotel or in your weekly hotel. I said, and buy yourself some furniture. Buy yourself a bed. Get yourself a TV, a couch. I said, I will defer the first payment for 60 days. This couple thought that they had won the lottery. They were ecstatic. The woman was hugging on me and thanking me, and they turned out to be fantastic tenants. They paid their bills on time, and never missed. And they because I showed them compassion, I showed them mercy, and helped them when they were down, and they turned out to be great people. I mean, they just needed a break. And so, to fucktard who thinks that, I'm taking advantage of the poor, look, I am a Christian man. I am going to help these people if I can help them. But I'm also a businessman. I still expect to get paid. And so and on one of my previous videos, right, there has to be a balance between emotion and logic. Just between air. You have too much air, you'll oxygen, you'll die of oxygen poisoning. If you have too little, you'll die of asphyxiation. Too much water, you'll drown. Too little, you'll die of dehydration. There's a happy balance everywhere, and that includes in business. Now, I'm not saying be cold and heartless and go out there and just plug your ears, kid, fuck people over. Be compassionate, help these people, but at the same time, you're taking risk. And you deserve to be paid for, putting your money on the line and helping these people who I've had customers where I had to go in and repossess the trailer because they stopped paying and they thought that, they were going to get there, live there for free. Well, sorry, bud. You signed a contract. And by the way, my contracts are, you have until the 7th of the month to pay me. If you don't pay by the 7th, I am at the probate court on the 8th, and I will have a sheriff there by the 15th hauling your ass out. I was very strict on that, but you get the right people, and they'll take care of it. They're going to be good tenants, and you're helping them, right? Because no bank in the world is gonna loan these people money. At least not at a reasonable rate. 39%, and my poor tank. 39%. Credit card, really? That's taking advantage of people. See, there's 62 kills, 0 deaths. That's what got my KD up to 2.0. That's, to me, that's loan shark, right? That's taking advantage of people. And I hope mobile homes, and this is the way I did it, right? If I bought a mobile home for $2,000, I'd double the price. That's what I'd sell it at. So if I bought it for 2, I'd sell it for 4. And I'd put it in a contract at around 12.75% interest. I might fluctuate that interest a little bit to kind of round the numbers off. I didn't like 247.84 a month. I'd kind of round it off to 245 or 250 and kind of play with the numbers. But it was about 12.75. And in all the deals I ever did, I only ever had one customer say, why 12.75? And my answer was, well, that's the standard rate for a used mobile home. Well, okay. I had one person criticize me once saying, well, the prime is only 3. You're screwing these people. Okay, the prime is 3 if plus the bank's cut, right? So it's probably 5 or 6, and that's assuming you have a perfect 800 credit score, right? These people don't have perfect 800 credit scores. If they did, they wouldn't be living in a mobile home, right? So, and so when I talked about the amount of money you make at the end of it, that's because, you're taking the risk and you're charging interest. I'm not overcharging the price of the mobile home because, 40-50% profit is not unheard of in business. 40 is average. And profit is not a dirty word. If you think profit is a dirty word, you're one of these, socialist fucktards that don't know what the hell you're talking about. Profit pays. It's not just going in the pocket and making someone finance his trophy wife and his Lamborghini. It also pays interest or any loans you got. It pays for cars and mileage, and it pays for the legal bills. It pays there's a lot of stuff that comes out of profit before you get to actually enjoy any of it. So profit's not a dirty word. I don't care what they say. So I double it. So 50. That's 50% profit, and then the rest is financing, right? 12.75% over 3 years. You're gonna make some coin. So I'm not taking advantage of them. If anything, it's a symbiotic relationship. There's your 25-cent word for the day. They're getting something that no one's willing to help them get, and you're making some money off it. Now you're not totally screwing them. Right? You're not even partially screwing them, right? You are offering a service that no one else is willing to do. So, to those people in the world who think little of people that are, venture capitalists or people that are trying to, start a business or run a business, but they think that you're taking advantage of low-income people, okay? You really, really need to get out of that basement and go see what the real world's like before you start commenting and criticizing people that are obviously smarter than you are. So, with that said, I'm kind of, where am I sitting at here? Let's take a look at the clock. Yeah, we're sitting at about 18-20 minutes. I guess I better wrap this one up. Again, by the way, I am seriously thinking about doing a rant on racism. Boy, you want to talk about one that will melt the internet. Holy cow. If you want to see one, put a comment below. I was thinking about, maybe next week or the week after, I might do one on racism. Boy, that ought to be an interesting one. It'll melt the internet. Might make me go viral. It might make this channel huge. So, And if you have any other ideas, I've got more planned out, but that one seems to be a topic. It kind of goes back to the Bugs Bunny, 1 little, 2 little, 3 little Indians. So with that said, I do thank you for watching. I do thank you for, there's some Kentucky windage for you. I appreciate your watching and leaving comments, and I am humbled and honored that you spend spend time with me on these videos. Thank you, and I appreciate it. So with that said, this is Sea Bear out.